Picture this. It's a quiet Tuesday evening somewhere in Florida. The kind of evening that looks completely ordinary from the outside. A warm sky bleeding orange, the hum of cicadas in the trees, a teenager sitting at a desk, staring at his phone. But this isn't any teenager. And this isn't any phone call. He's about to dial the most recognizable number in his contacts. The name on the screen reads simply Dad. 2 letters. 3 letters. The weight of an entire dynasty. On the other end of that call is a man who has spent his entire life bending the world to his will. A man who transformed a sport so completely that it will never look the same again. A man who wore red on Sundays like a battle flag. A man named Tiger Woods. And his son, Charlie, the quiet kid with the easy swing and the impossible last name, is about to tell him something that no one in the sports world saw coming. He's going to tell him no. Not to drugs. Not to crime. Not to failure. He's going to say no to Stanford University, the school Tiger Woods attended. The school that shaped the legend. The school that, in Tiger's world, represented everything a young man with talent and ambition should want to be. Charlie Woods chose Florida State. And the phone call that made it official, that 2-minute conversation between a father and a son, quietly sent shockwaves through the world of college sports, through the golf world, through every household where parents dream a little too loudly for their children. This is that story, and it goes so much deeper than football. If stories like this, the ones behind the headlines, the ones no one tells, are what you come here for, then make sure you're subscribed. Because this channel exists for exactly this moment. To understand why Charlie's decision landed the way it did, you have to understand what it means, truly means, to grow up with the last name Woods. Tiger Woods didn't just win golf tournaments. He didn't just collect major championships like other men collect trophies on a mantelpiece. Tiger Woods became a cultural phenomenon so large, so consuming, so utterly inescapable, that his shadow stretched far beyond the fairways of Augusta or Pebble Beach. It stretched into every corner of American sports culture. It stretched into the hearts of a generation of kids who grew up watching him on Sunday afternoons, transfixed by something they couldn't quite name but desperately wanted to understand. And then Charlie was born. February 8th, 2009. A boy with his father's eyes, his father's dimples, and eventually, terrifyingly, his father's swing. You've seen the videos. The clips that circulated online and made the entire internet stop scrolling. Charlie at age 12, standing on the tee box at the PNC Championship beside his father, drawing the club back in a motion so eerily similar to Tiger's that commentators genuinely went silent for a moment. Not from awe, from something closer to disbelief. The world immediately began writing Charlie's story for him. Golf. Stanford. The next Woods. The heir. The continuation of a legacy so enormous that it had its own gravitational pull. But here's something the highlight reels never showed you. Charlie Woods grew up watching his father break. He watched from the front row as Tiger's body gave out, as surgeries stacked upon surgeries, as the man who once seemed invincible limped through press conferences and missed cuts and quiet retirements that never quite stuck. Charlie didn't just inherit a famous name. He inherited all the weight that came with it. And when you think about that, a kid who grew up seeing both the summit and the wreckage of greatness, all within the same house, you have to ask yourself, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts below, because I genuinely want to know if you think Charlie made the right call. What Charlie loved, and what the world kept trying to overlook, wasn't golf. It was football. From a young age, Charlie was drawn to the game the way most Florida kids are. The roar of the crowd, the team, the dirt on your jersey, the brotherhood. Not the polite applause of a Sunday gallery. The chaos and the collision of the gridiron. He played high school football at Benjamin School in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And he was good. Not Tiger Woods good in the sense that the world expected. Not yet someone who made jaws drop with supernatural talent. But legitimately good. Hardworking. Coachable. A wide receiver with solid hands, and the kind of explosive first step that makes defensive backs nervous. But Florida is also one of the most competitive states in the country for high school football recruiting. Every year, dozens of elite prospects emerge from its suburbs and its cities and its small towns, all angling for offers from powerhouse programs. To get offered by a program like Florida State, one of the most storied programs in college football history, you have to earn it. Charlie earned it. Now here's where the story gets complicated. And complicated, in the world of recruiting, almost always means emotional. Stanford University reached out to Charlie Woods. Of course they did. The school is one of the most prestigious academic institutions in the world, consistently ranked among the top 5 universities in the United States. It boasts a football program that has produced NFL quarterbacks and Hall of Famers. And most relevantly, it is the school where Tiger Woods himself enrolled in 1994, studying accounting before withdrawing to turn professional. Stanford, for the Woods family, isn't just a school. It's a monument. It's part of the mythology. When Tiger talks about his time at Stanford, the friendships, the growth, the structure it gave a young man who was already becoming famous before he could legally drink, there's a reverence in his voice that you don't hear often. Stanford represented, in Tiger's mind, the foundation that serious young men with serious talent were supposed to build their futures on. So when Stanford came calling for Charlie, the narrative practically wrote itself. Tiger's son follows Tiger's footsteps. The circle completes. The legacy deepens. Except Charlie had been talking to Florida State. The Seminoles, under head coach Mike Norvell, have been on a deliberate and impressive rebuild. Norvell's program emphasizes player development, NFL readiness, and an offensive system that maximizes the skills of pass catchers. For a wide receiver trying to prove himself, FSU offered something Stanford structurally couldn't match: a pathway to play in a Power 5 conference at the highest level of college football, within driving distance of home, within a culture that breathes and lives the game. Florida State is 60 miles from Tallahassee. It sits in the heart of a state that treats football like religion. The campus bleeds garnet and gold. On game days, the Doak Campbell Stadium becomes something primal, something you have to experience to understand. Charlie experienced it, and something clicked. Here's the debate that split the sports internet right down the middle. Was this Charlie following his heart, or was this a young man so desperate to escape a predetermined destiny that he overcorrected? Was it brave independence, or was it rebellion dressed up as ambition? I'm curious where you land on this. Because I've seen both arguments made passionately and honestly, I'm not sure either side is completely wrong. Behind the scenes, sources close to the situation described a recruitment process that was anything but simple. Charlie was thoughtful. He visited both campuses. He sat in on team meetings. He talked to coaches one-on-one. He asked the kinds of questions that reveal what a young man truly values. Not, what's your ranking, but who am I going to become here? At Stanford, the answers were academic, prestigious, structured. At FSU, the answers were visceral. This is where you become a football player. This is where you find out what you're made of. For Charlie Woods, there was no competition. No one outside the Woods family knows exactly how the conversation went. That's the truth. The details are private, as they should be. But we know enough, from those close to both father and son, from the body language Tiger has shown in the weeks since, from the carefully chosen words in the public statements, to understand the emotional architecture of that moment. Tiger Woods is not a man who shows vulnerability easily. He was raised by Earl Woods, a Vietnam veteran and Green Beret who believed deeply in discipline, mental toughness, and the power of a clearly defined goal. Tiger inherited all of that. He has spent his entire adult life projecting control, on the golf course, in press conferences, in every interaction that the cameras could catch. But this was his son. This was Charlie. Imagine receiving that call. You are Tiger Woods. You have survived scandal and surgery and car crashes and public humiliation and the kind of physical agony that would break most professional athletes. You have clawed your way back from oblivion more than once. You have poured everything you have left into your children, into the hope that they will have the foundation you worked so hard to build for them. And your son calls you and tells you he's not going to Stanford. The silence that must have followed that sentence, even if only for 2 seconds, carried decades of expectation in it. But here's what those close to Tiger have said, quietly, to those who know how to listen. Tiger did not fight it. He did not deliver a lecture. He did not pull rank as the greatest athlete of his generation. He asked questions. He listened. He told his son that he needed to be sure. And when Charlie made clear that he was, that this was his decision, his future, his life, Tiger Woods said something that no one expected. He said he was proud of him. Think about what it takes to say that. To put down everything you believe the path should look like, and to choose your child's certainty over your own vision. That moment, unseen, unfilmed, just a father and a son on a phone, might be the most human thing Tiger Woods has ever done. If that hit you somewhere real, I hope you'll show it. Because stories like this one deserve to be heard. The announcement came on a warm afternoon. Charlie Woods, wide receiver, committed to Florida State University. The internet did exactly what you'd expect. It exploded. Shock, admiration, controversy, armchair psychology, hot takes, and 1,000 people who had never met Charlie Woods or Tiger Woods or anyone named Woods confidently explaining what this meant for the family. But in the middle of that noise, if you looked carefully, you could see a young man standing a little taller. Let's take a step back from the recruiting story for a moment and talk about something more fundamental. Something that every person watching this has felt, in some form, at some point in their life. The pressure of expectation. We talk about it easily, casually. We say he has big shoes to fill, or she has a lot to live up to. We say these things as if they're just phrases, harmless observations. But for some people, for the children of greatness, for the kids who grow up in the glare of someone else's achievement, expectation isn't a phrase. It's a physical weight. It sits on your chest when you wake up in the morning. It follows you onto the field, into the classroom, into every room you walk into where someone already knows your last name before they know your first. Charlie Woods has lived with this weight since before he could carry his own backpack to school. Watch any video of Charlie as a young athlete. Watch his face. He smiles, but there is something else underneath. A guardedness, a quiet seriousness that most kids his age don't carry. He's being watched, analyzed, compared, always compared. Is that swing as good as Tiger's? Are those numbers as good as Tiger's? Is he as mentally tough as Tiger? The question nobody was asking, the one that matters most, is, who is Charlie? Not Tiger's son, not the golf prodigy, not the next chapter of a legacy. Charlie Woods, the individual, the person, the athlete who might be making the first truly autonomous decision of his athletic life. And he said, I want to play football at Florida State. There is something quietly radical about that sentence, because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't serve the legacy. It doesn't generate the kind of golf world excitement that would make business sense for the Woods brand. It is simply what Charlie wanted. And that, in a world where children of famous parents are so often denied the simple luxury of wanting something for themselves, is remarkable. Tiger, for his part, has spoken about fatherhood with increasing depth in recent years. As his body has slowed and the tour schedule has become less consuming, he has spoken about being present, about showing up for Charlie's games the way Earl showed up for his. There's an irony in that, of course. Tiger grew up in the shadow of a demanding father who shaped him with both love and pressure. Now Tiger is learning, in real time, in public, what it means to be the father who has to let go. Those who know him say this hasn't been easy. Tiger is a competitor by cellular structure. He sees the best possible outcome in any situation and drives toward it with the focused intensity that made him the greatest golfer who ever lived. Watching his son choose a different path, even a legitimate, admirable one, requires him to override instincts that have never failed him professionally. But they also say this. Tiger has genuinely surprised people with his grace about this decision. He has been at FSU events. He has been seen talking to coaches. He is not a reluctant bystander. He is a father learning to root for his son on someone else's terms. And that, quietly, is its own kind of championship. Let's be honest about what Charlie is walking into. Florida State football is not a charity program. Mike Norvell runs a serious operation. The ACC is a serious conference. The players Charlie will be competing with and against have been training for this their entire lives. Some of them have been faster, bigger, and stronger than him for longer. The last name Woods will not earn him a single yard of separation on a route. It will not help him win a 50-50 ball in traffic. It will not stop a cornerback from putting him on the ground. If anything, the name works against him on the field. Every opponent who lines up across from Charlie Woods will be playing with something extra. The chance to say they locked up Tiger's kid, stopped Tiger's kid, hit Tiger's kid. There is a target on his back that has nothing to do with what position he plays. Charlie knows this. Sources say he spoke about it during his visits to Tallahassee. He didn't shy away from the challenge. If anything, those conversations revealed something about his character that the golf clips and the celebrity kid narratives never captured. A genuine, clear-eyed toughness. A kid who doesn't want protection from the gauntlet. A kid who wants to walk through it. That alone should make you want to watch what happens next. Because here's what I believe, and this isn't speculation, this is pattern recognition from watching athletes navigate identity and expectation for years. The ones who choose their own path, who make the brave and unfashionable choice when the comfortable one is right there in front of them, almost always become the most interesting version of themselves. They don't always become the most famous. They don't always break records or win championships. But they become real. They become authentic. They become the kind of person whose story actually means something. Charlie Woods is on that road now, and it starts in Tallahassee. There's a moment in every family's story, if you look carefully enough, where the inherited version of the future quietly gives way to something truer, where the son stops trying to become his father and starts figuring out how to become himself. It rarely happens with fanfare. It rarely happens in front of cameras. It happens in kitchens, in cars, in late-night phone calls between people who love each other enough to tell the hard truths. We just got to witness one of those moments. Publicly, in the strange, glaring arena of sports media, Charlie Woods chose Florida State. He chose football over golf, garnet over cardinal, his own compass over the one that was handed to him at birth. And somewhere on the other end of a phone call, Tiger Woods, the man who has won everything his sport has to offer, the man who has broken and rebuilt himself more times than any of us will ever know, chose to be his son's father over being his son's legend. That is not a small thing. That is not a sports story. That is a human story. A story about the most delicate and important act any parent can perform. Releasing the dream they had for their child and choosing, in that terrifying and loving moment, to hold the child instead. There will be doubters. There will be those who say Charlie is making a mistake, that he's walking away from greatness, that Stanford would have given him a better life. Maybe. Maybe not. Life isn't lived in the theoretical. It's lived in the choice you actually made, on the day you actually made it, with the courage or cowardice you actually had available to you in that moment. Charlie had the courage. At 17 or 18 years old, carrying one of the most famous surnames in the history of American sports, he stood in front of the comfortable path and walked the other way. I don't know if Charlie Woods will become an NFL wide receiver. I don't know if he'll start every game at FSU or redshirt his freshman year, or find his groove junior season, or go undrafted and pivot to something entirely different. None of that is certain. None of that is the point. The point is that the story is his now. It belongs to him, not to the highlights, not to the legacy, not to the shadow. To Charlie,